You have been applying for jobs for months. LinkedIn is open. Your resume has been rewritten so many times that you are no longer sure whether it even sounds like you. Maybe you moved back in with your parents. Maybe you are living alone in another city, paying rent from savings that were supposed to last much longer. Every week, the number in your bank account gets smaller, but your inbox stays exactly the same. At first, you tell yourself it's temporary. You only need one company to say yes. Then another week passes, then another month. You stop ordering food. You avoid making plans because spending money makes you nervous. Somebody asks how the job search is going, and you give them the same answer. Still trying. But privately, the question has started changing. It is no longer, when will I get a job? It is, bouncing that question becomes harder to fight when you look at the official numbers. In May 2026, American employers reported around 7.6 million job openings. In June, the unemployment rate was 4.2%. Read those two numbers quickly, and the job market sounds fairly normal. Millions of openings, low unemployment, companies still hiring. So why are you applying to 50 jobs and hearing back from 3? Why do qualified people feel like they are submitting applications into an empty room? And why does every rejection email somehow arrive at 2 in the morning? The headline numbers are not necessarily wrong. They are just measuring something much larger than your actual life. In the same period, roughly 1.9 million Americans had already been unemployed for at least 27 weeks. That means they had been looking for work for more than 6 months. More than 1/4 of all unemployed people were now considered long-term unemployed. So the country can have a low unemployment rate, while a smaller group goes through a long, exhausting search that barely appears in the headline. A job opening is not the same as a job waiting for you. It only means that an employer says a position exists, that it could begin soon, and that the company is supposedly recruiting for it. That opening may be in another city. It may require experience you do not have. It may pay too little to cover your rent. It may already have an internal candidate. The company may freeze hiring halfway through the process. Or it may simply disappear without anyone being hired. The national number counts all of those openings together. You are searching inside one industry, in one location, at one level of experience, with one bank account slowly running down. That is how millions of openings can exist while your personal market feels completely frozen. The honest answer is not that there are no jobs. It is also not that everything is fine. The job market is uneven. Some industries are still hiring. Others have slowed down. Some applicants find work quickly. Others get stuck for months. And the longer you stay stuck, the problem stops being only financial. The research paper behind this video starts with a much longer trend. In 1970, roughly 95% of American men between the ages of 25 and 54 were either working or actively looking for work. Today, that figure is closer to 88%. That decline has continued through recessions, recoveries, and periods of strong economic growth. Economists have proposed many explanations. Automation removed certain jobs. Manufacturing moved overseas. Wages weakened for less skilled workers. Disability, incarceration, opioid use, and changing family structures also played a role. But those explanations still leave part of the decline unanswered. The researchers offer another possibility. Men may be learning from the labor markets they experience whether work is likely to pay off. Imagine growing up while the men around you struggle to find stable jobs. You see your father lose work. You watch relatives accept lower wages. You see people apply repeatedly and get nowhere. Even if nobody sits you down and explains the economy, you are still learning from it. You may begin to believe that effort does not reliably lead to security, and that belief can stay with you even after economic conditions improve. Economists usually separate the problem into 2 sides. The first is demand. Are employers offering enough worthwhile jobs? The second is supply. Are people willing to enter the workforce and keep looking? The paper suggests that these 2 sides can feed into each other. A weak economy first reduces the number of opportunities. Then repeated disappointment changes what people expect from work. Eventually, some people decide that entering the labor market is not worth the cost. The researchers compared different generations, different states, and people who moved during childhood. Their estimates suggest that better labor market conditions during a man's early life were associated with a much greater likelihood that he would participate in the workforce later. The relationship was especially strong for experiences during childhood and adolescence. That doesn't mean one bad year permanently determines your future. It doesn't mean unemployment is genetic, inevitable, or impossible to reverse. It means people form beliefs from repeated experiences. And when the same message arrives often enough, the mind stops treating it as temporary. It starts treating it as a rule. I should be honest about where I am speaking from. I am a software engineer at Google, and I have been working in technology since 2019. In my part of the software industry, the pandemic period was actually good for us. Hiring accelerated, technology companies expanded, remote work opened more opportunities. So I did not experience the worst version of what many people are going through now. But there was a period when I had to search for another job. And even when you are currently employed, the process can get into your head. You apply, you prepare for interviews, you study, you speak to recruiters. Then you lose control of the process. You wait, you check your email, you replay one answer from the interview and convince yourself that one sentence ruined everything. When your savings are running down, that uncertainty becomes much heavier, because now the rejection is not only about your career, it is attached to rent, it is attached to groceries, it is attached to whether you need to move back home, it is attached to the fear that your independence has an expiry date. Psychologists sometimes explain this using something called the latent deprivation model. The name sounds complicated. The idea is simple. A job gives you more than money. It gives you a schedule. It gives you regular contact with other people. It gives you tasks to complete and somewhere to be. It gives you status, identity, and the feeling that your effort is connected to something outside your own head. When you lose work, several of those things can disappear together. That is why unemployment can hurt even before the bank account reaches zero. You wake up without a clear structure. You apply for jobs, but the work produces almost no visible result. There is no finished project, no salary. Sometimes there is not even a rejection, just silence. A large review published in 2025 combined dozens of long-term studies and found that unemployed adults generally reported more depression, anxiety, and psychological distress than regularly employed adults. Symptoms often improved when people returned to work. Women are also harmed by unemployment. This is not a competition over who suffers more. But the experience can take a particular shape for men, because many men grow up learning that their value is connected to earning, providing, and remaining independent. A man may not openly say, "I feel worthless because I do not have a job." Instead, he stops meeting friends. He becomes irritated when his parents ask about applications. He avoids talking about money. He says he is fine because admitting fear feels like admitting failure. Research on men's mental health repeatedly finds barriers such as extreme self-reliance, difficulty expressing emotion, and the need to remain in control. Economic insecurity puts additional pressure on those beliefs. So the person who most needs to say, "I am not handling this well," may become the least willing to say it, and the silence gives the fear more room to grow. Pushing forward, this creates a feedback loop. The first rejection comes from the employer. The second rejection begins inside you. You start lowering your expectations. Every application feels more pointless. You spend less time tailoring the resume because you assume nobody will read it. You stop contacting people because you feel embarrassed. You delay applying for a role because you already imagine the rejection. Eventually, you may begin withdrawing from the labor market altogether. This is the mechanism the paper is pointing toward. A temporary shortage of opportunity can become a longer reduction in participation because people update their beliefs about whether work will reward them. Rejection is information about one application in one market at one moment. But after enough rejection, the mind begins presenting it as a verdict on the entire person. Those are not the same thing. You cannot force a company to hire you, and pretending to be positive will not fix a weak labor market. but you can stop the search from taking every part of your life at once. Give the job search a fixed starting time and a fixed ending time. Set one daily target you can actually complete. Maybe that is 3 strong applications instead of 30 rushed ones. Speak to actual people, former colleagues, friends, recruiters, people working in the role you want. Track useful signals, referrals, recruiter responses, interviews, and feedback. Do not measure your entire progress only by offers, because offers arrive late in the process. And make a simple plan for your money. How many months of expenses do you have left? What can you cut? When would you consider temporary work, moving home, or changing cities? Seeing the numbers may be uncomfortable, but vague financial fear usually feels worse than a clear plan. Also keep one part of your life that has nothing to do with employment. Exercise. Meet someone. Learn something without turning it into another qualification. You need evidence that you still exist outside the application portal. The study does not examine your LinkedIn applications. It cannot predict whether you will receive an offer next week, and it does not prove that one difficult period will permanently change you. What it offers is a warning about how people learn from economic pain. When effort produces nothing for long enough, you stop treating the result as temporary. You begin learning a darker lesson. Maybe effort does not pay. Maybe there is no place for me. Maybe this is simply who I am now. That conclusion can feel logical. It is still not a fact. When the economy says there are millions of openings and your inbox says there are none, both can be true. The economy is measuring an entire country. You are living through one occupation, one location, one level of experience, and a limited amount of savings. The money leaving your bank account is real. The pressure is real. The rejection is real. But this period is not a reliable measurement of your intelligence, your usefulness, or your future. Protecting that distinction is not separate from finding a job. After enough rejection, it may be the thing that allows you to keep searching long enough to get one.